Our sponsors for this episode are MTO Commercial and Residential Cleaning Services. MTO has been, still is, and will always be a locally owned and operated company. Paula started MTO in 1994 and has been serving Harvey County residents ever since. If you're looking for a one-time clean or a weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly spruce-up, no need to worry. MTO gives free estimates. Give Paula a call at 316-288-9141. That's 316-288-9141. Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Remember, there's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. 1919. Is your AC or heating system just not keeping up? Maybe it's not keeping your home or business as cold or hot as it once did. It could also be that all you're looking for is a reliable, trustworthy, and affordable technician to check on your system and do whatever maintenance necessary to ensure it's working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If so, give Air Quality Control a call at 316-285-3304. That's Air Quality Control, 316-285-3304 for all your air quality control needs. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week of this week?
Today I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. I think that's probably because I've been running so hard so fast that I'm entering burnout stage. So that's where I'm at. And I am, as we speak, seriously looking forward to a parade this afternoon.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Andy?
There's me.
I'm doing good, man. You guys beat me here. I was kind of whipping around the corner and see your cars here. I was like, oh, dude, I better hurry up and get my mind shifted real quick. But no, things are good. The week's been good, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah. I had a really good week this week. I got to experience something I'd never experienced before, the CTE signing day, and I'm going to call it the CTE signing day, but what I understand it's signing day, right, for any youth in NHS or surrounding areas that come to Newton High School to participate in the CTE program or the various certifications or they had all kinds of stuff. Like I had never been there before. Like most people, if it doesn't affect you or you're not necessarily a part of it, you don't really keep track of it. But it was an amazing thing. Like, it was really cool. There was a ton of youth there that all were getting, recognized for their OSHA certification, for their machining, welding, etc. And my kid, he did machining. So I was there to watch him, walk the stage, right? And just what they did there, for those that don't understand what that is or what signing day is, it's kind of like a mini graduation ceremony. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Absolutely. I want to say just real quick, shout out to everybody who's a part of that. And Lance, I did see you and your son there. Sorry I didn't get over to say hi. But I think it was 6 years ago. There were 22 kiddos, and last night yesterday morning there was it 180? It was a
big amount.
It was under 200. Pretty close to 200. Yeah. I want to say 200, but I'm going to be conservative and say 180. But just think about the 6 years of growth and opportunity and celebrations to those kiddos that are usually in the shadows, that are doing great things that don't usually get recognized. And there's a hunger there that we need to continue to realize in our communities and in our homes, where our kids want to be celebrated. And we're real quick to say, hey, you didn't do that right, and not look at the 9 things they did that's right and hit them on the one out of the 9 things or the 10 things that they did wrong. But that positive reinforcement is so important, and it is critical to build our culture, to make sure we're looking for reasons to give positive reinforcement. You don't want to be Pollyanna, and you want to be authentic. But giving those kudos from 22 to 2, that's telling you the kids are swarming to a place where they're getting affirmed. Yeah. And I'm excited about that.
Internships. I wish I would have brought a pen and paper, right, to write down everything that there was. There was culinary arts. Like I said, there was welding, there was machining, there was auto tech, there was Vogue Ag, there was culinary. There's just
electrical.
Electrical's another one. And I saw Mr. Swaggart walking out the door, and I just shook his hand. Mr. Swaggart's Kansas Electric, they were instrumental in ensuring that there was a pathway to electrical for students, and how that feeds the system and how that helps with economic development and the whole thing. And I just told him, I really appreciate everything that you've done. I just want to tell you that. And he's like, oh, well, it's everybody. Of course, him and his humility was, well, it wasn't just me. I mean, thank goodness there's students that want to participate in it. Hopefully we have more next year. And I couldn't have done this without the partnership between NHS and HCC, et cetera. And it's just like, wow, humble guy, Mr. Swaggart, appreciate you. Every time I see you, I've known you since I was a youngster, went to church at the same location. His kids were relatively the same age as me. So went to youth group with them, and just amazing person. Thank you for what you're doing. I mean, I don't want to say, that. I mean, Mr. Bothman was there, the CTE machining instructor, Miss Mosier. If you haven't got a chance, we did an interview with them through HCTalk. There's just so much that's going on in our community where it's just success after success after success. And I say it again, and our youth should be celebrated for all the things that they're doing. But before we go any farther, go ahead, Andy. What do you got?
Just have one thing. I had this experience, and I just want to thank my buddies who invited me out. And I'm going to just dunk a little bit. I got to go to see the Kansas City Royals play against the Houston Rockets, and talk about, one of those few times in my life when I get to do something really cool, which is be in a suite at a game that you watch on TV and stuff, and actually be in the position where you're sitting there with a bunch of cool people talking about cool things and going, man, I could eat all the burgers and hot dogs I want right now. And so that was really cool. So this week was really neat. Yeah. Actually, I almost forgot about that. That's stupid.
Well, it's one of those things, I mean, we get into our day-to-day grind.
American life. The Royals won.
Okay.
They beat, so it was really cool. And I tell you what, in this country, it's amazing.
Yeah. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
How stupid is that?
Well, two things. I got to correct you, Andy, because I'm I love the Royals, but I also, it's the Rangers and the Astros. The Astros, not the Rockets, right?
I'm basketball.
We don't want to have any false information here. Hey. Somebody will be getting on here and be like, "You guys are giving corrected."
Thank you for correcting me, because you're right. Somebody will do it. I got haters out there just
they're everywhere. Now. You gotta love it. Okay, and maybe this is a good time before we move into upcoming events. But I just gotta say this. Last week we talked about the recall petition that had been filed by Halstead residents against Mayor Dennis Travis for a couple of issues that they felt that would be classified as a legitimate reason to have a recall petition.
I saw this conversation on Facebook.
Okay.
Holy cow. I just want answers to questions. I'm watching this stuff as an outsider, and now I'm in because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But I watch this on Facebook, so if you got questions, go to those threads. Yeah. So sorry, bub.
No, and that's the thing is we provided accurate information, and it was based upon the petition itself and then the county attorney's response to it, which is the legal way that happens. The county attorney found that there was no grounds at that point in time, the way the petition was filed, to support a recall. Okay, Chad mentioned his opinion on it last week, which was that, you can file a petition at any point in time that you want, but unless it meets XYZ criteria and it can move forward, then you're wasting time. And I don't disagree with that at all. But we have had a little bit of pushback on social media with those that are involved, and I'm just going to say what's constantly happening now at this point. It's almost like a stalemate. A listener reached out and said, "You're wrong and you're giving false information." So then the response was, well, what false information is being given? Then to no answer, to this again, to no answer, to no answer. So if you feel like something that we have said is incorrect, right, that's fine, because we're all human. We're not perfect. We give our opinion sometimes.
I just said the Rockets instead of the Astros.
Well, you're going to have a bunch of Astro fans. But okay, so really on this subject matter, if you feel like we have stated something incorrectly, it happens. I've had to correct myself on this program before. Please just say why. This is not a confrontation. This is not an argument. This is a situation in which we are commenting, we're giving our opinion, the facts that are there, the research that we've been able to do, and then from there, if you feel like we're wrong, then articulate why you think that we're wrong. And then you know what'll happen? If you have a good enough case, we'll come on here and talk about how, hey, I said
wrong.
X, Y, or
You were
Z,
wrong.
and I was wrong. It's okay to say that I'm wrong.
and so where the situation is now for the recall petition is I mean, here's where it is. It cannot move forward.
As it stands right now.
As it stands right now. So those folks that wrote that petition are welcome, and they may respond to the letter by rewriting their petition. And the legal finding, the finding of the county attorney, was that they had not demonstrated how these things led to one of the qualifiers of a petition. And those things are set out in state statute.
Yeah.
That's not even the county level. Those things are set out in state statute.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
you know what? The
go
school
right
board
ahead.
can fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the school board can
Andy
fix it.
Ortiz, school board member, needs to get on board
Yes,
with
I'm
that.
making fun a little bit. Drives me crazy.
You mentioned school board. Let me tell you.
I
Here we
stepped
go.
in it.
I didn't watch the school board meeting. I watched the Halstead
Yeah, he's
meeting
talking
this
about
Monday.
Halstead.
I told somebody, I was like, I'm going to stop watching the school board meetings and start watching the Halstead city council meetings, because they're actually
Please
they're
do
actually
that.
a little bit more interesting right now.
Well,
if you're into controversy.
I skipped the first hour and a half of the Board of Education meeting. I was absent, and I know that people noticed that. And I had to make a decision as to what was more important at that point in time. And let me tell you, I went back and rewatched that hour and a half, and I made the right decision to not be there.
Kind of what? Just not a whole lot going on.
Well,
3-3 every up and down.
No. I mean, I can sum up the entire hour and a half or so with one quote from Vince Haynes, who, by the way, I was really shocked to see when I walked in the boardroom. I of all the people on the planet that I would have expected to see in that boardroom, he was not on my list. Just saying. But anyway, so the quote is that the Board of Education, along with the assistance of RSP, who's doing evaluations of building usage, are going to be able to make decisions over the course of the next few months based on how to best deliver education, and not based on, my God, this building's going to fall down tomorrow. And that's a really wonderful place to be.
Yeah.
Granted, I didn't need an hour and a half of that. but what I did get during that hour was the first music concert in the newly renovated Lindley Hall. Man, that was so fun.
Yeah, I saw that come out. I saw some pictures of that on the
looked
camera.
great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was a great moment. And I'll go ahead and name drop and out somebody a little bit. One of the things that I was very happy about was I posted that story to thekansan.com, and 10 minutes later I had a text telling me how wonderful it was from our superintendent of schools, Fred Van Rankin. And he knew point blank when that concert happened, and the fact that I chose it over you.
Yeah.
That, you know what? That doesn't happen very often with the you choosing over somebody else and then being happy that you chose something else over there. But hey, we'll take it, right? We'll take it. You know. Okay, so before we get too much,
good at changing the subject, don't I?
Right?
Good job.
We floated up high. Okay, so
Moving forward.
before we go any farther, with something that we're trying to do on the program is just to talk about any upcoming events. It might seem redundant, but as we go through, if we mention it, a few weeks in advance, and that just gives more opportunity for more time to be spent on it. So I just want to make sure everybody knows today I don't know, whether I can get the podcast out in time enough for the Wyatt Hendrickson parade, but that's been very well publicized on social media and everything. I don't think there's anybody that is in the know that won't know that that's happening. So it is today. If this comes out later than that, we just want to send a shout out to Wyatt Hendrickson once again. He just keeps winning. He keeps moving forward, and I'm hoping to see a gold medal around his neck at some point in time. And I'm hoping that this is the time for him. I believe it's very possible that it is. He's firing on all cylinders. But coming forward, Friday night is cruise night. It'll begin at 6:30. The cars will leave the Newton High School. They will travel east down 12th Street. They'll take a right and travel south down Main. It's not a parade. There was some discussion of that before. It's just like normal. So they will traverse down, and then they will arrive at Midway Motors. Got to send a shout out to Matt Hensley and Midway Motors for all they do in the community, along with supporting both the cruise night, being a block sponsor of the car show. And you can get something to eat, some refreshments there. They're going to have food trucks on hand. Then following the next day, there's going to be, I guess we'll start it time-wise, the Newton Freemason Lodge there at the corner of Broadway and Main Street will be having a pancake feed. It's a by donation. It's pancakes and sausage. And that will start at 6 o'clock. The car show will then begin at 8 o'clock and run until 4. They hand out awards about 3 o'clock. So the Newton Car Show is this Saturday. During the same time, you have Barbecue on the Bricks, which is a fundraiser by New Jerusalem Missions to help support their cause. There's also, I forgot something, the Lions Club on Friday night, when the cruise night takes place, will have a drive for food, or a cruise for food as they call it. You can drop off any, and I want to say non-perishable items, to the old Dillon's parking lot there, right across from the old mill, from 6 to 7:30. It's 320 North Main parking lot, I guess, to be specific. Right. So they do this every year. You can provide hygiene items, and it's all for Safe Hope. So if you know what Safe Hope does, they're a wonderful organization in the community that reaches out to help women who are the most in need during their time of crisis, or even maybe just a hand up and not so much a handout. Also, we have Touch a Truck event coming up May 16th from 5:30 to 7 at Centennial Park in Newton. If you've never taken your kids to the Touch a Truck event, it's something that's very nice for our kids to be able to go and see the fire truck and see, last time I think the Bearcat, I think is what we call it, was there. Police cars, multiple different people participate in that. So that'll be May 16th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Centennial Park here in Newton. And then, of course, our Sand Creek Summer Days Festival will be coming up, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So Chad, because I don't know everything that's going on, I got to throw it over to you. Is there anything that's going on here locally that I hadn't mentioned that you can think of?
I'm sure there is, but right now my memory bank is just really concentrating in one kind of area. Couple of things to mention about the car show, and that's the Kansas Masonic Foundation is going to be giving away a car.
Yes. Yeah, you can buy raffle tickets to that.
So, and I don't know how much the raffle tickets are.
$20.
Okay, so if you feel bad about buying a raffle ticket, just put my son's name on it. He'd be more than happy to take that car home. But also the remote control. What do they call themselves? Harvey County Remote Control Club. They're the ones that maintain all of the RC stuff out at the Harvey County East Park. They're going to be giving away a couple of vehicles too. They're going to have a raffle at the car show.
Really cool.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot. I've got an event in my calendar that is not public that I keep trying to convince them to make public, but I'm planning to cover it. And there's going to be a readers theater over at Newton Presbyterian Manor. And since it's not a public event, I'm not going to give date and time, but that's coming up like within the next couple of days. And then from there, grab yourself a Kansan. Page 2 is community calendar every day, and there's going to be plenty to be seeing over the course of the next few weeks.
Well, I'm glad you plugged the Kansan, because I was going to say, if we're forgetting anything, simply subscribing to the Kansan Chad does a wonderful job. The Kansan does a wonderful job about posting local events that are taking place, upcoming. I mean, and sometimes that's a pretty lengthy section. And I think you all do a pretty good job. I don't know of anybody that said, "Hey, wait a second, I had something going on, but you didn't mention it." And I think
that happens. But all you got to do, folks, is email me at news@thekansan.com, and I'll add you to the lists.
Yeah,
that's easy, easy peasy, and I'm more than happy to do it. You don't got to pay us for that. Now, if you want an ad, you got to pay us. But if you want to be in that community calendar, just let me know what it is, and we'll get it in there.
Well, and speaking of the Kansan and what the Kansan reports on, and the upcoming cruise car show that's happening that we discussed, I told Chad I took a screenshot of it because, of course, I subscribed to the Kansan. I said, "Hey, thank you very much for putting this in the paper of this upcoming event. You know, this is a big deal. CCRT is taking over the car show, and they're trying really, really hard to make sure that they maintain, you know, everything that people can come to expect from it." And your words to me, and I quote, were, "It's turned into more than that. It's turned into a festival of sorts because there's so many things that are connected to that." So something else that I noticed in the same exact paper was the open streets, right? And we talked about the open streets before, but also the Mennonite Action that hosted a worship service, quote unquote, protest at Harvey County Courthouse. So first, did either one of you guys make it to the open streets? I had a previous engagement. I was unable to. I wanted to, but I couldn't. So were you there, Chad? I mean,
I took that time to recharge my battery elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't make that one.
See, and I wish I should have gone.
I would have loved to have gone, but I had a photographer that was assigned to it, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to go recharge myself somewhere else.
Well, and I think once again that was I hate to say that the three of us sitting here didn't attend, and maybe I should have talked to you guys about that before the program, but you know, I believe that is something that really helps people get out. There's a reason for people to get out. I was hoping for good weather. Last year it was questionable weather. This year was better weather, and it's an opportunity for people to get out and participate for just one other thing that's happening in the community. When I was doing what I had to do, it caused me to detour a little bit because streets were closed during that time, but it looked like they had a pretty good turnout. So I'm hoping that's the case. And then just okay. And I don't want to stay here forever because it seems like this is just once again something that's turned into a controversial situation, but I'm recalling a conversation that we had in the past on the podcast about what's going on in Palestine right now, what's going on in these other places of the globe, Ukraine, Russia, war, et cetera. And I saw some comments that came out about this, and they were negative, and to each their own. People have their opinions, and that's fine. But I also question how this is framed. Because what I saw, just speaking specifically of the Palestinian situation, was not people that were anti-Israel, right? They were more really trying to focus on the fact that there are many, many, many Palestinians that are caught up in a war that they probably didn't want. They probably don't hate anybody. There's nothing they can do about it, and they're suffering, and people quite simply just want to pray for these people. Am I missing something, Chad?
Okay,
I mean, I said, let's not rest here forever.
Let me make some comment here that is very, very, very much through the lenses of an Anabaptist Mennonite. I can make these comments because I are one. Okay?
You is what you is.
I am what I am.
You ism.
And I'm also a war protest veteran. All right, and there are people that get really triggered by that label, by that statement. Okay, but you go back into the Bush years and the Iraq War. I was the one that was staring down police dogs in the middle of Denver, Colorado, in a war protest. And so it's important to me anyway that I kind of help some people understand, yes, they were there to support Palestinians, But that is more like the leaves. And we need to get to the roots. And the root is we Anabaptists and Mennonites despise war. Period. And there are some of us, like myself, when I see a war, there's nobody's right. Nobody. I don't care if you wear blue for Israel or whatever color Palestine's deciding to wear on the given day. I think their flag is black and red and white. I see nobody that's right. And that is the core of it. The other part of Saturday's event, it's very hard to quantify it, right? Because they called it a protest worship. It was pretty heavy on worship. It was pretty heavy on singing and music and listening to a few folks bring out some messages, mostly rooted in biblical truth. Some of it was about, if you want to call it that, and I will, the plight of the Palestinians. It's the innocents who are dying. And that's pretty key to this whole conversation. It's the innocents who are dying. And the other half of that was support for immigrants. And I'm telling you point blank that some of the comments that I have seen on that side of it are making my blood boil. Because we have now gone to the point where folks are deport them all. Don't care. Don't care where they came from. They just need to go back. I'm sorry. My grandmother-in-law does not need to go back. She's legal. And she's done nothing to suggest that she should be anywhere but in the United States, where she can be visited by her grandkids, her son. There's nothing. So I got a real problem with some of the crap that was being thrown out there when it comes to immigrants.
Yeah. Well, and I saw some of that. There was, I choose to refrain, right?
Yeah.
I read and I let people have their voice. Rarely do I have something to say about that. I kind of reserve it for the program for us to talk about. But I will say that this is a huge topic that we can't unravel today. I wish I could say that we're going to see light at the end of the tunnel, but I want to make this statement before we go any further in reference to this about how Lance feels about the situation. And it's that, I'm a firm believer that this issue could have been handled way differently over the last 50 years, at least, or more. That it's a very complex issue. There's been a lot of wrong decisions, in my opinion, that's been made. There's been some right decisions that have been made, but it still goes back to Congress not passing an appropriate immigration reform legislation, making it law in order to stop the bleeding. And there are so many people that are getting caught up in this in so many different ways. Some people, yes, should be deported or not good for being here. Some people came here because, well, that was the policy that was set it forth and to no fault of their own. And because we don't like a previous administration, the choices that they made, then now these people are suffering because it is almost too much to talk about today. So I'm going to move along.
The whole thing. I mean,
we don't want to get branded as a political podcast, guys.
Even the Israel-Palestine portion of that is not something we can unravel today.
Yeah.
But
big issues,
huge issues.
We ain't gonna solve them on Facebook by our little sly comments.
But I am gonna say this, and this is a message for both the people who were there that day, singing hymns with their signs, and for the folks who didn't like it that they were there. Mennonite Action is starting to get active, so we're going to see more of this. And Mennonite Action is more than Newton, Kansas. There were similar gatherings all across the United States. And we're going to see more.
Yeah. People's right to participate, people's right to protest.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. And so much of the pushback that I was just there taking pictures. That's what I was there for. I wasn't there to participate. I was there to do the job that I'm paid to do. And so much of the pushback I was getting, I'm just like, dude, sorry, the First Amendment extends to the people who don't agree with you too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing illegal happening here. Sorry.
Yeah, in fact, in the realm of protests, I would say that was probably a pretty light one, right?
There was no
buildings were burned down on this day.
Absolute
no windows
definition
were broken.
of a peaceful protest.
If you're gonna have a protest, you want the Mennonites to do it. But okay, moving on and going. I know we're taking a roller coaster ride here, but something that I thought was kind of interesting. I saw a post from Burton Community Public 2024. That's kind of their Burton, the city of Burton's, like what's happening in Burton type of a thing. And because of time of year and the rain that we've had, a lot of people are not getting out to do that first mow. And I got to admit, although I love to be outside and enjoy doing things, landscaping, mowing of the grass and weed eating is not high on my priority list, right? But all of my neighbors are mowing. They're like, first time mow, second time mow. And I'm like, oh, how much longer can I wait before I got to do this? And then I saw something from, and I mowed, and of course, I think that my algorithms obviously heard me mowing because the next thing that pops up on my, well, they did. It does everything. And all of a sudden I start seeing these posts, right? One coming from Burton Community, which was just basically the city, I'm going to assume, saying, hey, you got to do the upkeep on the yard. If you don't, then the city will gladly come by and mow your grass. And you won't believe the going rate for the city to come mow your grass in Burton is $200. Wow. And the first thing I thought was, man, I guess
call me, my kid will do it for about $20.
Right? It's like, but then again, if it was only $50 or whatever the case may be, then the city might be in the business of mowing grass,
Exactly.
So you got to raise that up there, Well, then about that time, it's like, oh, all of a sudden I see Heston put out the same thing. Heston Police Department, like many smaller communities, are tasked with code enforcement. So then they put out a post to say, hey, it's time to get out there and get that yard mowed and get that stuff cleaned up. And so I thought, well, at least I'm not the only one. Do you guys love getting out there and mowing your grass the first time of the year? I almost procrastinated on it, but I'm
dude, between my parents, my house, and my house, I'm up to about my fourth or fifth walk of the year, and I'm about to add another one for my kid to go help out a friend. So to me, the bigger issue I'm having is being able to get time for the garden, because that's got to get going. If I don't get it going quick, there ain't gonna be one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sucks, but it goes with home ownership. It goes with living in a community. You got to take care of your lawn, just the way it is, man. So, and if I would say that if you're significantly older than me and you're struggling, make a couple phone calls. Maybe at one time the senior center was trying to maintain a list of people that needed that kind of help.
Yeah.
And they were also trying to create lists of people who could give that kind of help.
Well, for
the rest of you, you just gotta get it done, or pay somebody to do it.
How many hours does it take you to mow this compound out here, Andy?
We're
complaining about our yards, and he's like, shit. You guys know how long it takes me. What does it take?
Well, yeah, there's a lot there. If I'm on the mower, if I jump on the mower, it's usually 4 hours a week. But we have, other things that we do sometimes depending on our schedules, and people come in and help us out with that. And that $200 is a pretty good price.
And he's like, let me know, Burton, if you would have come out and mow my grass.
Do mine.
But even then, I don't think
pay that in a heartbeat.
But see, even here, I don't think that. Now, I'm going to be ignorant here, but I just something that came to my mind was, well, these are city ordinances that people are getting. So
I'm thinking Andy
even have to just let it grow.
This is what I'm thinking Andy
bail
needs
it.
to do. I'm thinking Andy needs to pick just sort of a small area around the house that's going to be the yard, and then the rest of
let
this
everything else go.
The rest of this needs to go back to call it tall grass prairie.
Yeah, native.
Yeah.
Hey, you might even
look like
or call up Monarch Watch and plant a whole bunch of milkweed and call it a.
It'll look like the front of Kaufman Museum.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
If you can see, there's areas that we learn from our neighbors and people around us and why they do certain things and how they have certain things mowed, and you pick up on that after the first couple of years when you're trying to knock it all down like you would in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
We mow about 10 acres around the house, but then we have roads and neighbors and other things that we back each other up out here a little differently. So sometimes you get the front of the road, sometimes your neighbors do. Sometimes the township will run through real quick and knock some stuff out depending on what's going on. But we have a really cool area, and we take care of each other out here pretty well. I don't want to say too much, but I have some blessings around here, and people will come through, and sometimes you come home and things are done, and you want to do that back. And there's a lot of that goes on around here. So.
Community within a community.
Absolutely.
Right?
And there's some Saturdays I can wake up at 7:30, and I haven't had to jump on that mower in a while. And we got fun toys out here too, by the way. It's not,
You're not push mowing the whole thing?
No, I'm riding around in a
unassisted push mower and 15
you can think,
acres.
Our local Hustler mower for those Super Z's that mow at about 12, 13 mile an hour, and it's a big piece of steel. And I got one of the good ones. Thank you, Dwayne Jones, and all he does for our community selling those mowers out here. But and it's once you mow on one of those, kind of a Mennonite built machine.
Yeah.
I got one of the real ones. I know things are changing, and they still respect them. They spent a lot of money in our community. They employ a lot of people, so I will continue to buy that brand. Grasshopper's also good. Shout out for free there too.
Yeah.
See, we're not all about taking; we're giving back a little bit.
So for those of us, if you're looking for a riding lawnmower,
that is in the engineering department up at Grasshopper.
Yeah, it's an amazing unit. So my neighbors are all Hustler and Grasshoppers.
Yeah.
And if you drive anything, if you're new to the area and you see us looking at you on your mower and we don't wave,
it's because you're driving a Toro.
You're driving the wrong mower.
Well, and it's like
it might be cool that you went and bought that 14-foot Crone, but that's the wrong
thing. I love it. And this goes back to supporting local and economic development. I've always wondered, and I'm sure there's reasons why this isn't the case, but municipalities in a local area should almost, in my opinion, exclusively buy from manufacturing entities that are within their community. So I don't understand why we don't see a huge majority of Grasshopper and XL. They're not XL anymore. Hustler. I should say Hustler, because Hustler is the product that made by XL, but now it's Black & Decker that makes Hustler. So
all I'm going to say is this: every time I get a new farm simulator game, there's the very first mod that I download is a Heston Swather.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know who you are out there in Cyberland that created the Heston Swather for me, but thank you. And they actually allow you to rebrand that for anything made by Agco, but no way, man. It's always that red and black Heston Swather that's doing the mowing on my farm. Yeah.
You'll see a lot of those around here.
And that's what put Heston on the map, as far as manufacturing is concerned. It's a lot of history there. I worked for Agco, which was formerly this, that, and the other, and it was Heston Corp originally, right? And it may have been called something before that, but they did a really good job of telling the history and the story of that, and how it became to be what it is today. It's just very unfortunate that we're seeing some of the things that are happening with the pulling away of some of the product that's made there, and hopefully that will come back. Only time will tell. I wanted to cover two things. Last week, everybody knows we covered extensively mental health, and we talked about some, addiction and things of that nature, which lead to the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart, whatever the case may be. But as I was looking, I just wanted to cover two things real quick before we move on to our other topic. We've got two more left, but I guess probably because of when it came out in the paper, I didn't catch it, Chad, but I want to cover it this week. And the heading was, nearly a third of surveyed area children report drug, alcohol problems in the home.
Yes.
We didn't cover that last week, did we?
No,
we talked about it, but
I
it wasn't
wrote that
exclusive to
for
the Kansas article.
National Drug Endangered Children's Day.
Which is April 23rd.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we have to have that day, but we do. And I don't remember the exact statistic. I'm that old. In some ways I'm that old school journalist. I'm not going to give you the whole story in the headline.
Yeah.
But yes, it's well over 30%. Yeah. It's a third would be 33%. Yeah. So my brain is pounding my frontal core with the number 38, but it was
mid-30s. Yeah,
I am just not going to say that's accurate. Go read the story.
Yeah. And it's there. It'll be there. If you have an online subscription, you can go back and read past stuff too.
But yeah, what that means is that they're saying that someone in that house is doing drugs or has an alcohol problem. It's not just that my dad comes home from work and grabs a beer and sits down and enjoys a beer with a baseball game on the TV. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people with a problem. And that's unfortunate. And the reason it's unfortunate is of all of the other things that it can lead to. Stoned and drunk parents I'm just being straight. You're not good parents. Mm. And inevitably, because of, when I was in college, we called it liquid courage. Well, because of your liquid courage, you're very apt to do something that's just not good,
Well, and that comes back to...
That might be the only time you slap your kid upside the head.
Yeah.
When they didn't deserve it.
And I'll say this too,
but
Chad.
Hey,
and going here, not faulting anybody, okay? Because obviously there's a huge majority of people that consume alcohol who it doesn't affect their life, right? So we're not saying one is the other. It's not like, you go drink alcohol and all of a sudden you're an alcoholic. I don't go for that.
No, it doesn't work that way. I'll have a shot of whiskey any day.
But when you're talking about for instance, as a Mennonite.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell your pastor?
I make my own. I haven't done it in a while.
Is it okay for Mennonites to drink?
I haven't done it in a while, but I even make my own beer.
You'll
Okay,
take a shot every day.
Go over to Shalom. Go over to Shalom. They have a sleeping.
How long has this been
brewing club?
Chad, it's time for us to have an intervention.
We need to have a talk.
And here we are making
By
fun
the way,
of it. But
Mr. and Mrs. Fry, you can come in now.
We got him on record.
Man, I'd love to see
got him
them,
on record. And here we are making light of it. But this is why it's such a difficult thing to talk about, because we're joking about it, which is a common thing to do. We're not making light of it, but at the same time, I think there's a realization that not everybody that consumes alcohol then, i.e., becomes an alcoholic.
Correct.
There are people that are more susceptible to addiction.
It's abuse.
It's the abuse.
It's the abuse.
Well, and that goes back to the question that I had, which was, and I had a very good conversation with a personal friend of mine over lunch, and we talked about this. If you're listening, you know exactly who you are. He deals with this and watches this. People who are in addiction very regularly, has his entire career, and has a better grasp or better understanding than I myself. So I was asking for some advice in this, and I said, are one in the same? If you are somebody who's drinking excessively, to the point of doing it, let's just say, I don't know, to everybody it might be different. To somebody listening, it might be like, I come home and I knock back a 6-pack every night, Monday through Friday, and drink a case of beer over the weekend. And the question then becomes, is that what one person may consider too much, another not? We're getting into some...
I was there. I was there.
And not to fault anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm going to just put myself out there. At one point in my life, I drank almost every night, every other night. For sure, once every 3 days, I was drinking in the evening. I would do my thing. I would come home, and whatever evening I had open, which was not very many, but the ones I did have, I would just start drinking.
Yeah.
And I would drink in the evening. And one time it was on Wednesdays. I got to where I got responsible. And I used to drink on Wednesday evenings and the weekends. And I had to do this. Well, I was at church one time, and the pastor was talking about not drinking. And he says, well, if you have to think about it at all, that's probably a problem. And I really didn't like that.
Challenged you.
Oh, he was just talking.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like he was talking to me, and I was not happy with him. I was driving home, to the point where I was driving home, and I turned around and I went back and confronted him about it. Because, I can be stupid sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
because that's Andy, right? I'm just going to meet it right now, and we're going to do this.
Being open, honest, and transparent is okay.
We had a talk, and it went from me leaving there and not drinking for 1 year. It was actually more than a year. It was supposed to be a year, and it went a year and a couple months. That's when we, founded Celebrate Recovery in this community, and I was a part of that group that spun that up. And me and Rich, who's now passed away, and we brought together a team of amazing people, and I committed to them that I wasn't going to drink while I was leading the group, because not that I had the same level of problem, because I did stop and I could stop, but it was a check in my life and a reset to where, I might drink once every 3 weeks or something on a weekend. And in the summer times at the pool parties, I might drink on the weekend a little bit here and there. But there's times I go a month and a half without having a sip of alcohol. And there's nights I'll be with, the guys out here by the pool, and I'm home and I'll go through a 6-pack, for sure. But it just depends. But I don't ever think about it. And I don't look for it as part of my day or part of my week. Depending on the situation, I went to the Royals game, and before, all the alcohol I wanted, all the liquor I wanted, all the types of liquor. I could have went high in all night. I had one drink and one beer.
Yeah.
And within a span of 5 or 6 hours, and I was fine. It was perfect, So I think it just, people change and evolve, and I can tell my lifestyle is a lot better without alcohol in it for the most part.
Yeah, and it's a rhetorical question.
For me,
and that's where we're at, right? And I'll say the conclusion of the conversation was no more definitive than the question that I originally asked, which is, in your experience, can't one be the other? When we're like what we talked about on the program, where we have somebody that's choosing to indulge in a substance, and therefore wouldn't that be classified in some instances as self-harm? So if that's self-harm, then doesn't that prelude a mental health condition in both? And then, there's so many variables.
I was abusing alcohol for sure. I had a moment in my life where I had to look at myself differently and look at why it meant so much to me and why I was holding on to it. And that went through a process of searching. For me, it was searching for Jesus, figuring out how to fill those gaps to where there was no need. And now it's not even a thing I think about.
Yeah. It's just...
But that was my deal, right? But there was a point when I was abusing it, 100%. And it wasn't healthy for me or the people around me.
Well, and I think there's stages in people's lives where that's... It just depends on why you drink. Remember, it comes back to the why.
The justification.
So for me,
the normacy of it.
It was
right.
The time that was roughest for me was when I was in college, because we all thought to have a good time, that's what you had to do.
Well, it's socially.
You set the precedent for each other.
You'd go down to the old mill on Thursday. Get schnookered. Unless you were the unlucky designated driver, then you were drinking Pepsi all night. And then on Friday night, it was, we'd find someplace. And when I was at Bethel, on Saturday nights, it was somebody's mod was we didn't know which mod it was going to be every Saturday night, but yeah, you'd walk out into the
pass notes.
What do they call it? The courtyard, and go, okay, who's got the loud music? It's up there. All right, let's go.
It would,
yeah, it was nuts.
And horse and buggy days.
Had Chatty riding over there midnight in his buggy.
Yeah, oh man,
was that when you were younger? Was
and
that
there
the
was also weed? There was also weed.
We can't talk about this on the program.
Yeah, we can't.
That is too real.
So we were talking about these kids saying that there's a drug problem or an alcohol problem in their home. So that's what we were doing, man. And then all of a sudden college stopped, and I end up with a job as a sports writer. And I know he doesn't listen to the program, but thank you, Don Showalter. Because Don Showalter was he was my Sunday school teacher through high school. And then I went back home to be a sports writer, and he was the basketball coach at the public school. He is now, well, I ain't going to go there. But anyway, he's a big deal. Don is a big deal. And there was a moment in time after a church service that he walked up to me and he said, we don't really have a class for you for Sunday school. This church does not have a spot for you based on your age to kind of plug in. Would you start coming to youth group on Wednesday nights and hang with the high school kids? And Don looked at me and he said, those things you'll never forget. He goes, you're writing about all these kids in the paper all the time. Why don't you come hang out and be an example?
Give back, yeah.
Be an example. He's like, yeah, you're just getting started out. Show them what it's like to just get started out.
Well, and at that point, you're still close enough in age, too.
But it was that moment where it was be an example. And one of the very first times I went to youth group, the topic was booze. And Don looked at me and he said, got any college stories to tell? And I looked around the room, and I kind of looked at Don, and he goes, remember, you're just getting started out as an adult here. And when he said that, this is what came out of my mouth. I looked around the room and I said, yeah, I could tell a lot of stories from college, but the bottom line is this. I'm just getting started out in my career. I don't got money for any of that stuff anymore. I walked away from it all. And I think that statement made a bigger impression on those kids than any other statement that I could have made. I went from party 3 nights a week minimum. I was the guy, and my brother-in-law will tell you this, I was the guy that was just getting back into the dorm or into the mod when everybody else was leaving to go to class. That was me. Yeah. And it stopped almost overnight because I didn't have money for that anymore. I had to support myself. It was a scary time. And I was on a campus with my sisters, and my sisters had a pretty good idea what was going on. And one of them approached me a couple of times, and I wouldn't even talk to her. I just wouldn't. Thank God I outgrew that.
Yeah.
So to your point, we all have different stories and different walks and different seasons even in your life where people going through hard times. And I see where people that have participated with drinking or partying or the groups of friends that run around in the clubs, and one of your things is to power drink and all that. We're more susceptible when things get hard to go to that as a release or self-medication is just, I think, what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we just forget to pull out of it, or they just don't. So it's you've got to be careful with it.
It's stuck in a substance. I mean, if you look at Stand and all the work that they've done and all the research they provide youth, it's very eye-opening to see that your chances of chemical dependency of any kind based upon when first usage takes place is quite astronomical.
So how do you feel about it? I mean, you've been pretty open about things you've dealt with in the past, and people in our circles of influence that we both know that have struggled with it, on top of us powering through our own battles throughout our life, because I've been through that battle myself. How do you feel about that? Because the mental health, I know, is a big piece of that.
Yeah. Well, man, I would say for me personally, I can identify with what you guys are saying. There's been times in my life, when I was a youth, I was very in a very difficult situation. And I would say, I'm not going to say all the things that I did, but nothing was off the table, right? And it was because of how I viewed myself, for whatever the reason was, my life, my upbringing, no fault of anybody's. I mean, just basically it has a lot to do with identity. So then I found my identity with people that were doing these things, and therefore I wanted to be accepted. So as a young individual, I was somebody that, and everybody's story is different, but I fell victim to addiction through peer pressure and wanting to be accepted. And then before I knew it, this addiction had taken over my life. And then I was actively going out and doing what your stereotypical addict would to feed the habit. And that got me into some real problems. Once beginning to suffer the consequences and see where I was at that point in time because of the decisions that I made in my addiction, I realized that's not who I am, and that's not how I identify, and that's not where I want to be. Yes, I had to suffer the consequences, and for everybody's consequence is different. Whether
Absolutely.
it be lost time, whether it be that you, like when we talk about parents with children, whether you're available, whether you're present, whether you're able to, get the kid to the hospital if something happens and they bust their chin and you're halfway tanked up. There's no way that you're going to be able to actively do, in my opinion, what's required of you as a parent given that situation. And we get in this cycle, right? And then because of what we do, it's no different as adults. If you don't drink, you're not going to be with people that drink 9 times out of 10. If you're a social drinker, then you're going to hang out with people that socially drink 9 times out of 10. So if I'm somebody that abstains, and I choose to abstain, right, because I'm very cautious of substances that I consume, which at this point is occasionally might have a beer. Okay, occasionally. And the reason why this is the case is because I have to know my own flags, which are that in some ways I have an addictive personality. And this is it, guys, okay? If we have pop in the house, all right? Now, I don't drink pop really. I mean, I do occasionally, but
you mean sodas?
Soda, a Coke, whatever you're from, wherever you're from, whatever demographic. And I hope I'm not monologuing too long.
No.
I need a Pepsi Coke.
I'm being disrespectful. I'm tracking.
You're good.
That's good.
And so my situation is such that, if we go buy a case of pop, then Lance will have 1 pop today and 1 pop tomorrow, and then 2 pops 3 days down the road, and then we'll do three sodas, and then we'll do 4. And before I know it, I'm drinking 8 sodas a day. Now, it doesn't matter what substance it is that comes into my life. I know that's something I have to keep under wrap because of my personality. Now, some people might laugh at the fact, this guy, but you take caffeine, you take any substance that is addictive in nature or compulsive to me, because this is me. This is only me. This doesn't speak for anybody else. But knowing myself and knowing my weaknesses, then I have to make conscious decision to not participate and do that. So the alcohol, it would be very easy for me to go and have an alcohol or a beer. And then the next day just justify, I can have a beer again. I can have 2 beers. And then, I can have 3 beers. And the next thing I know, this has become a part of my life, and I'm seeking out times, locations, and people to drink with. And at that point in time, now all of a sudden, it's a driver. And then why you drink, right? We go back to that. So anyway, I monologued a lot.
Well,
I hope I answered the question.
It's different for everybody, but there's a lot of people, I think, that have that gear. And that's one of the blessings I have is when I chose not to drink and I realized those patterns like you're discussing, I noticed there was people in my life that had exactly that pattern. And they were creating things that I was just kind of following along because I like to hang out with people. Yeah. And I was participating, and I had to get out of some of those circles. I love them, right or wrong or indifferent. I just chose not to live my life that way. But I think there's a big percentage of people that do that.
Yeah. Easily.
So
and it's a get caught up and taken away type of a thing.
I want to kind of bring us back a little bit because you guys have set up some great contextual. that this was all started, this whole conversation really started about drug endangered children.
Right.
And every one of us have sat here and given some self-awarenesses. You as a parent, and I'm not saying this as you, Lance, I'm saying you out there.
All of us.
You as a parent, you've got to have that self-awareness. And you not only have to have that self-awareness, you have to have an awareness about your kids too. Because every one of us discussed behaviors in our lives that we knew we did not want to model for our kids.
Correct.
And whether we said it or not, part of our decisions to walk away from those things was what we were going to model for our kids or other people's kids. For me, it was other people's kids. I didn't have kids till I was flipping 40. I'm old.
Yeah, wait, now I'm
Horse
actually doing the math on that.
Yeah.
Damn, Chad.
Yeah. So it's
No.
and that is, I just can't stress how important enough that is. And it's not just about your drinking. It's not just about whether you're lighting up a blunt. It's everything. And when I say it's everything, I just want to give you just a window, right? A year and a half ago or so, I bought my first membership to Sam's, and on the very first trip down there, my wife was like, "Look at that thing of M&Ms. It's only $15." This is an exaggeration, but I could tell you it's this tall. It was huge. And I'm like, I'll buy it one time. I will commit to buying it today. But it is how fast that stuff goes out of the house will determine whether or not I buy it again.
Yeah, well, let's rest here, okay? We talked about this before, Chad.
And it's also, and that thing went fast. And then there's the annual story in our house on Girl Scout cookies. Okay? So we will buy boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And there's always one box that is mine. Okay? I love my Thin Mints. Specifically out of the freezer. I love them. And, you know, we had Girl Scout cookies already for this year. I don't remember what month. But there was like 5-6 boxes that were not mine. They were community boxes. They all gone.
Community boxes. I love that.
They all gone. Those Thin Mints, there's still some in the freezer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I have the control around those cookies. No one else does.
Well, yeah.
So as a father, you got to ask yourself, how do I help the rest of these people?
That's good.
As a parent, you got to ask yourself, how do I help the rest of these people? And for teens, the simple answer when it comes to drugs and alcohol is help them to never start.
Yeah.
But once they get started, now you're going to have to start asking yourself, how do I help this kid regulate all of this?
And personalities matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've got to be identifying and open about your stuff.
Genetics
so your
matter.
kids can start going inward, going, well, how am I like my parents or not like my parents, and what triggers me? And I think just the act of talking them through those things and being open about, you know, your personality traits are different than mine, because I have my downfalls too, and my holes in my personality that cause me to do the things I do when I'm in distress or whatever that is. Chad, you have your own. We're very different. But those experiences and talking to our kids openly, and you hit the nail on the head, self-awareness. We've got to know where we're at, because we all go into crisis modes at times.
Yeah.
And if we're not aware and we don't know how to take care of ourselves, we're going to start looking for things to fix us.
Yeah, and communication is key, because self-awareness is something that has to be taught to your children. They don't just automatically know it. There has to be a conversation with you, a fully developed brain, functioning adult, to have a conversation with youth to say, well, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that way? And challenge them, that then develop also self-awareness leads to critical thinking skills. Why am I okay? So we went long on this. We don't want to go too long on the program. There was a couple other things that I wanted, and it's okay that we rest there, because we're kind of spilling over from a conversation the following week. We're not going to solve all the wars, but here's the thing. I've said it over and over and over again. If you're somebody that is struggling with addiction, reach out for help.
Absolutely.
Reach out for help. There are plenty of opportunities. I work with CCRT, and there's a group of people, there is a network of people that want you to reach out for help, so that way you can be the best you. Because when you're struggling with addiction, I promise you this, you will not be the best you. You will not be the best person that you have to offer to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to the community. It's just not. It's like I could say and sum all this up and not being a poo-poo on anything fun and all these great stories that we could all talk about that we experienced when we were in the throes of whatever excitement we were and whatever substance we were using. I promise you, you will not be your best self to anybody if you are addicted to substances. It's just not going to happen. And even yourself, you're just.
And if this comes across anybody that needs help, private message this channel. And if Lance doesn't have time, I'll commit to do whatever I can to help you. Please just know that there's help and we will get you help. So please just private message us if you feel like you're in a space where you need somebody and you need some help. We'll help you. 100%. Please message us.
Well, so yeah, this is what we're supposed to do here. There's a couple things that I want to mention, and we can talk about it next week, I suppose, because we are going to run out of time. But the strangest thing happened to me when we're talking about addiction and whatnot. I was walking. There was a gas station that I don't normally go to for obvious reasons, and I went in to I was driving by and I thought, well, I'll just go here because it's right here. Okay, it's not my first pick, but I'll go here because some of the things that I know happen there. And lo and behold, as I'm walking in the door, I literally had a guy walk up to me and ask me if I knew where I could get some fentanyl. Okay, and I thought to myself, it caught me so far off guard because I'm just like, what? No, well, like what? Right? And then I had to turn around and take a double take and say, Did you seriously just ask me if I could find you some fentanyl? Like, seriously? And then he profusely apologizes. He didn't mean to offend me in any way, shape, or form. Just really, 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 really needs to get that substance. And I just thought to myself, the anger went away. The compassion came in. The desire for that person to have a life that is free of that, if that's possible, the whole thing. But it's alive and well, folks. If somebody's coming up to me and asking me whether I know where to get some of whatever, because they're in such desperation to get that substance, then know that there's the same people going out and trying to peddle that to other people. So you can just reverse it and say, instead of asking for it, you could be asking if somebody wants it. So, okay. Anyway, just wanted to mention a couple things. Speaking of kids, families, and all this type of stuff, there was a report that came out. Peace Connection shared it, and it was from Cake News. It says an estimated 187,000 Kansas school-aged children could have received free summer meals last year. Their families just didn't submit the application. That's a huge amount of people that would have qualified for some funds to help feed their kids. And if you're just scraping by and you're feeding your kids, with a little bit extra money, maybe you can taper what you're feeding them, and it might be a little bit more nutritional. Go ahead, Chad. If you know how to tell people to get out there and
don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not.
Do you think it's a shame thing, or do you think it's just not knowing that those resources are available?
I think it's both, because I also know, I know these things firsthand, the shame that comes with being in the free and reduced meal program. There's like this social stigma. Oh, you're a free kid. Don't be ashamed. Doing what you got to do for your kids is never something you should be ashamed of. Providing for your kids is something you should be proud of. And I don't care where you're going to get that help, unless you're selling drugs. If you're selling drugs, off with you.
Yeah,
but
peddling poison.
Yeah. I mean, don't be ashamed. And that summer meal program that Peace Connections is a part of, dude, just figure out a way to get your kids to the park and and participate. There's nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
There's a community there too, you know? Okay, so I just want to say some of the things that we had on here because we don't get to cover everything. But before we give everybody a final word, I was reading a little bit and I wanted to cover this where it's statistic has said that over 4 million Gen Zers are jobless, and experts are beginning to blame colleges for worthless degrees and a system of broken promises for the rising number of those without employment. That was one. So think about that. Why do you think that's the case? We'll talk about it next week on the program. And the other one is, if you didn't hear, Spain and Portugal and much of Europe had a complete blackout for a period of time. I believe all of the lights are back on and their electricity is running. I think it's been completely restored. Early reports, they don't know why, but some are thinking that they can blame it on solar panels. So we'll talk about that next week when more information comes out. And then on that note, what's your guys' final words?
Final word. Congratulations, Wyatt. He posted his, to my knowledge, it was the first post on his Instagram of his engagement. Of course, there's some of us that have known about the engagement for a little bit longer. But congratulations, man. That's probably your biggest win over the course of the last several months. And you've had some big ones. Yeah. And by the way, folks, he just won another championship.
It's gonna be
he won the U.S. Open down in Las Vegas, and I got to see like one match, and it only lasted 24 seconds. You go, buddy.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy?
Man, there's so many great things going on, and I would say that for Harvey County right now, we're in a building mode, and really excited to see so much opportunity opening up for so many people. And I'm hoping that we can pull together and try to look at the positive things and not be Pollyanna, because there's issues that we have to handle and things we have to take care of. But if we just bring our focus down to the local level and take care of each other, I think we're going to have a real good 10-year run here coming up. So keep the pedal down and keep serving each other the best we can and bringing tools and new communication styles like this one and others, and stay connected. Thank you, Chad, for what you do to keep us doing that. And man, Lance, what you're doing to plug in and innovate and giving opportunity for people to hear what's going on in our community at the level that you're doing it, and all the work this takes to build out what you've done over the last 4.5 years has just been amazing to watch. And I'm proud of you. Keep doing your thing, and let's have a good week.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. And I'll say my final word is this. As anybody knows, I ran for election a time or two myself. I've always believed,
twice.
maybe a couple times, just barely skin in my teeth,
Thinking about getting a post office box down in Halstead, are you?
Way to be a fighter, man.
No way. No, I've already been there and done that. So I will say this, to those people that always have something to say or really want to be involved or whatever the case may be, there's plenty of offices that are available for you to run. In fact, I was kind of surprised by the most recent post from Harvey County elections, and that was that if you look at all the potential spots that are coming up in your local and school board elections, doesn't look like there's very many people that's filed. In fact, I'm looking at maybe a total of 4 at this point in time for all of the potential. Now, that doesn't mean that people won't go ahead and file, and they're just a little bit late in the game or whatever. But I kind of look at it like, put your money where your mouth is. If you're somebody that has something to say, and you're somebody that thinks that you can make some different, don't be an armchair quarterback. Man up, woman up, whatever the case may be, up, and whatever you are, up, and do something about it. File, run, be there, make your case, and we'll see how it fares.
What is it, $20 now?
It's next to nothing.
There you go.
Next to nothing.
It's real.
Have a good week, everybody. We'll catch you next week.